I'm here today with Alexander, and we're going to be talking about luxury goods, blockchain, and a brand new startup which many may not have heard about called SurgeTech. So without further ado, Alexander, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about SurgeTech and how you've built that into an SaaS provider in the luxury goods industry.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you very much, Andy, for the opportunity of speaking with you guys. It's always a pleasure. Now, basically, blockchain has this intrinsic promise of solving the counterfeit problem. And of course, counterfeit is a huge issue in the luxury industry, if you think about it. It's expected today, estimates say that the counterfeit business is around $100 billion every year, of which 30 billion is basically on online business. And if you put everything together, the last report that I read, Global Brand Counterfeit Report of 2018, was saying that in 2020, this figure would go up to $1.8 trillion. Taking into consideration all the luxury goods. So I'm putting into the food luxury goods, the hotellerie, the experience, everything. And obviously, the luxury industry is very sensitive to this, because if it can manage to get a grasp on what's original, what's transparent, and what is traceable, it can reduce this huge counterfeit market and bring it back to home. And bring it back to its own house, which is obviously the luxury brands. And so, yeah, I would say that Surge is definitely on this path. We are a technological company that is using blockchain technology. In particular, we're using Hyperledger Fabric to help create supply chain networks in the luxury industry. So we're serving customers that want to create safe supply chain networks in which all the players, different players that have different interests, different stakeholders in the supply chain, can share their data in a very secure and safe way. And they can use it to work together, which means also the opportunity to speed up the go-to-market. And obviously, as you know, in luxury, go-to-market is always an issue, because it takes a lot of time to create something, design something, and bring it to the final consumer. This will obviously shorten this time gap.
So I assume that partially that's behind the name of the company, that there's a surge in the product, and perhaps now with COVID time finishing as well, there's going to be a surge in demand.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Surge actually came, we all call it Surge in the British way, also because we have a lot of sort of international, multinational companies that are which we're working for and working with. But actually, the initial idea was from Latin, surgere, which means to rise up, which means to take the challenge, okay? And basically the idea behind this is to take the challenge, which means we know that this is an early adopter market. We know that a lot of companies, especially in the luxury industry, sometimes are a little bit sort of scared to try something new, to do a proof of concept on a new technology. But who is going to decide to go in that direction? Who's going to make that decision, that bold decision, will have a competitive advantage in a very short time. Because as we all know, blockchain is here to stay. It's not a technology that's going to come and go. This thing is changing the world. It's changing it in the financial industry, where you guys are experts, but it's changing it in the supply chain side of the business, in the luxury and non-luxury industry, where we know how things work. And this it is already sort of transforming completely the landscape in supply chain and in the way business is managed. And of course, in this period of time, with all the problems we had, this is even a more sensitive issue, because now everybody wants to have the 100% traceability of the goods, no? So, yeah.
Clearly. I mean, blockchain has been around for a while, though. It's not kind of a very, very modern. I mean, I've even spoken to people recently who said that Ethereum is slightly old-fashioned compared to some of the new things. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about the Hyperledger platform that you're working on, how it works with cloud, how it works with companies like SAP and Salesforce, and what the team is actually doing when it comes to touching technology within Surge.
So yeah, so basically, Surge, as I was saying, is a tech company. I take care, obviously, of the marketing and sales side with some other colleagues, but then there's a huge amount of very technical people who write code and develop everything. The most of them are in Eastern European countries, Russia, and many other countries in Eastern
They
Europe.
like luxury goods in Russia as well, though. So
Yes, obviously, yeah. And they have great department stores like Boom and Zoom also. So yeah, and the good thing about the team is that they are extremely professional and skilled people. They work with cutting edge technology. So Surge bases all its technology on what we call front. But front for us is not just the front end. So it's not just the web-based application that we give to our clients in order for them to use our software, our technology. It's also the service and the APIs that can work with other services. And so basically the technologies that we use are many. We use Java, Angular, Terraform, GitHub, Dockers, Kubernetes, Jira, Helm, and then obviously we have Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services for the cloud side. So this technology is really trying to stick to the idea of blockchain being the only source of truth. No, the idea of having this system, which is not just a central model working also with blockchain, but it's actually a model that has small different segments that are independent from each other, and then they all work together in a harmonious let's say landscape, which is powered by blockchain. This is what we really want to do. In fact, another important thing is that we don't serve only private sector. Obviously, we use private permission solutions with Hyperledger Fabric, but we are also having talks with the local Italian government to help them in the public sector. And obviously, you were also referring some time ago to the fact that what kind of let's say proof of work do we use or we don't use? Well, actually, we don't use proof of work because it uses a lot of energy, it's time spending, etc. What we use is consensus. So we have consensus algorithms like Raft, like Kafka. We usually use Raft. And what we do, what that works, how that works is basically one of the knots, one of the blocks is eligible to be like, let's say, like a sort of temporary leader and decides to propose a solution to all the other blocks. If the other blocks accept the proposed solution, then that becomes the consensus solution. If they reject it, then the process has to reiterate, which means that basically another block will have to propose a new possible solution, and it will go out looking for a new consensus. So this is how, let's say, on the technological side, where we are working and we're creating the solution.
So within the client that you're working with, though, you have this dashboard
yes.
option. Who would be the person within an FMCG or retail type business who would actually be opening up the dashboard and working out how this block is doing and how this block is checking authenticity and? Well, what kind of position is that?
It depends very much. If I may, I'll do a real example with a real company, so it's easy for everybody to understand. We work with one major multinational. It's not the only one, but let's say it's probably one of the most important we have today, and that's Kering Group, especially Kering Eyewear. So in the eyewear business, you have different players. Okay, some of them can be producers of lenses like Zeiss. Some of them can be entities who certify your product, like Certottica in Italy, for example. Some other ones create hinges for the frame, like Trisottica and many other small players. Then you have companies like Mazzucchelli who create acetates to create the product, or sun lenses like Barberini. Okay, these players are all different players. They have different ERPs, they have different interests, but they all participate to one common supply chain, which is this supply chain network that has been highly suggested by Kering Eyewear. So all of them have a Surge front, and obviously all of them can insert information that is critical to create connections in the blockchain supply chain network. So if Kering needs to know the whole database of the Zeiss lenses, Zeiss can easily upload all the information, all the libraries that it has on the lenses on the blockchain network system, on the supply chain. And then all the information will be gathered in one huge big dashboard that can be used and seen, obviously, by Kering, because Kering needs to see it. But then there are other players in the supply chain that might need to see only fractions of this information. So not everybody will have all the access to everything, but everybody will have access only to the little piece that is required for them to see, and the information, the opportunity for them to insert the information. So the good thing about front is that you use it as a front and a back end. You can use it in both ways.
My goodness, looks like you're going to put SAP out of business if you keep going like this.
No, not really. We believe, but let's say that the idea, the philosophy behind it is to give the opportunity to people to work together. Obviously, big companies can afford SIP. Small companies can't. So we can be a solution that connects with a plugin, big companies using SIP and small companies that have nothing. Those companies can come on board, can hop on board on Surge without having any kind of technology, and they can just use our technology to have that fraction of information that they really need. And that's very critical for a market like Italy, because Italy is based on small companies that do very, very sort of craft-made things. And the technological advancement of these small companies is very, very low. So the more simple you keep it, the better it is.
Oh my goodness, sounds like Amazon have to worry as well a little bit by the sounds of it. So just back to luxury goods though, what kind of challenges have you faced? Obviously you talked about the counterfeit problem. Obviously that's related to payments, I would have thought. So people confirming their payments and the payments being false. Someone delivering the goods, delivery turning up and then no payment coming. Yeah, things like this must be the challenges.
Yes, well, this is definitely the side that would be sensitive to our audience, which is obviously in the banking system. The other big issue is the actual production of products that are not traceable. For example, if Gucci or Louis Vuitton creates a new bag, how can you tell if that bag is 100% original? You have two technologies that can merge together. Our technology, what we provide is obviously blockchain. So it's, let's say, the digital passport of this product. We can trace from the leather that has been used, from where that leather has been sourced, the animals, how the animals have been, let's say, killed to, use. So if they've been ethically killed or not, where the source of the product is coming from, up till the final consumer. And obviously this is very important. So you have two technologies. One is blockchain that's going to give you this digital passport. The other one can be NFC technology, RFID technology, QR codes that can connect together the physical product and let's say the digital identity of the product. And that's very important because today what happens is you have professional companies in professional production plants in China, in Turkey, or in many other countries that do incredible products. They're difficult to recognize. Mm-hmm. And this happens even I've been working also in the watch industry. I worked for a Swatch Group for 3 or 4 years. And I can tell you, even important brands like Omega, like Breguet, like Rolex, like Patek Philippe, everybody has problems because there are industries around the world that are able to create counterfeits that look exactly the same, even to an expert eye. And so the only way you can distinguish these products is by a physical means or by a digital means. And blockchain is definitely one of the things that can enable you to be 100% sure you're buying a product that is trustworthy.
Very interesting you should mention that. We recently covered a story about Shenzhen and how an Apple iPhone costs a quarter, maybe a fifth of what it costs the Americans to produce. In a local little factory in Shenzhen. It's literally just the brand half the time that gives the pricing. So it sounds like your product may actually be needed very soon if this continues.
We think so. We definitely think so. And honestly, we're looking at, so because the technology is so flexible, we're really looking into many different, now we're talking to the food industry, because obviously in Italy we have the big thing about food, where foodies, all of us, but we also export a lot of food around the world. So it's very important for us to be 100% sure that what we export is good for the final consumer. And you probably know, but one of the huge issues that the wine industry has is counterfeits that go to China. So the Chinese are buying humongous quantities of French wine and now Italian wine also. They're importing, and they have a problem that they want to be 100% sure that what they're buying is actually Brunello di Montalcino, Barolo, etc., all the right kind of champagne, etc. So, and it's an issue, because in the majority of times, there are other companies who are creating humongous quantities of counterfeits and selling them as the original product. If you manage to trace these things through blockchain, you're protecting your industry and your market. Same thing in the pharma industry, same thing in the automotive industry, especially the high end. We are talking to big manufacturers, I can't say the names, but we're talking about big manufacturers in Italy with supercars, hypercars. Obviously, they have the same issues. They want to be, why? Because they have the aftermarket issue. So if you want to buy bits and pieces of a high, local brand, you have to be sure you're buying the original parts and you're buying something else. And how can you know if it's not traced on blockchain or some other technology? So there's a huge market, and this thing is we're scraping the surface. This has just begun. And we believe that we are, we have a product that actually is working, and we have real customers with real needs, and we're delivering real results. And that's putting us into an advantageous position to move forward very, very quickly.
Okay, but you mentioned Australia and China here. Obviously, there's an interesting situation brewing there. Specifically, I think about wine. Actually, I think the Chinese are probably going to come to Italy more now, bearing in mind the stories that we're hearing from that region of the world. But with all of these different jurisdictions you mentioned, I mean, obviously with Italy, the counterfeit market, you have a little bit of it in Italy. I think everyone's been to a beach in Italy. We kind of know what goes on there. Yes. However, there's markets like Zurich, there's markets like London, Istanbul, where you can get the best Rolexes not the best Rolexes in Europe, but some of the Rolexes in Europe. And you've got a lot of currencies going on here.
Yes.
So yeah. Have you got any plans when it comes to Swiss francs, euros, liras?
Absolutely. We're working on possible integrations. We're trying to get in touch also with specific needs for the banking industry. We have some talks going on. I can't be more specific, obviously, because we have NDAs with these companies, but I really think that, we are definitely very flexible. Our solution can be absolutely adapted to the banking industry, and we're definitely looking into how we can help the luxury industry according to the currency. So obviously the pounds, obviously the Swiss francs, and Italy is not the only producer and consumer of luxury goods. In fact, it's a big producer, not a big consumer, and the majority of consumption is outside our borders, and in some of the regions you were mentioning. So definitely we're working on these kind of projects, but we're also very open for new opportunities. So it would be a pleasure to get in contact with other banking institutions that might be interested.
Okay, lovely. I mean, from our perspective here at Disruption Banking, it's very refreshing to hear a story that is related to our industry, as well as supporting it and showing us that there are disruptors in other industries that are trying to help the market. I do hope that in the future, your name will be as well known as Stripe and Adyen and some of the other huge startups we've seen across Europe. And we hope to see you becoming a unicorn as well one day. By the sounds of it, you have the right product.
We hope so too. We believe very much in our product, and we're trying humbly to market it in the best possible way, and to get to know it, and to get people to talk about it. But what we really, we're very humble and very small, but we also believe we have a very strong product, and we would like to show the market. And so we're happy to take any kind of challenge, as the name Surge says.
Super. Well, thank you very much, Alexander, for your time today. It's been really refreshing finding out more about what Serge does. I think in the future, if you ever want to publish a report about market penetration when it comes to blockchain services in retail, I think would be very interesting. So would our readers. So perhaps in the future, that's something we can come back to. But for now, Alexander, again, thank you very much for your time. It's been a very enlightening experience, and we hope to speak to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Andy. It's been a pleasure meeting you and all the team, and we hope to be hosted again in the future.